For nearly 2 years now, we have been promised the future, a mass-produced electric car on sale right here in the U.S. And now the two cars that are grabbing most of the headlines, the Nissan Leaf and the Chevy Volt, they are finally in the hands of customers. Nissan delivered the very first Leaf to a driver in the San Francisco Bay Area. And Jeffrey Caffey of Parsippany, New Jersey, he is the first in the U.S. to receive a Chevy Volt.
The message is, I think that this is going to be the new wave of automobiles. I'm very proud to be the first Volt owner.
From an engineering standpoint, the two cars are very different, but they both have the same goal: dominate an electric vehicle marketplace that, for now, these two have all to themselves. Energy Now's Lee Patrick Sullivan compares these groundbreaking cars in this Energy Now Spotlight.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the blue corner, weighing in at 3,700 pounds with an all-electric range of 40 miles, the Chevrolet Volt. And in the red corner, weighing in at 3,500 pounds with an all-electric range of 100 miles, the Nissan Leaf. These two EV heavyweights have been going toe-to-toe for more than a year. Chevy led with an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty on its lithium-ion battery. Nissan hit back and matched it. And the folks from Chevy reminded a gathering of EV enthusiasts in California who came up with the warranty first.
We also are glad to see that our friends at Nissan have come to the same conclusion we have, that warranties on these batteries are very important.
At that same conference, Nissan delivered what it thought was a body blow: an affordable $349 lease program. Within hours, Chevy delivered an uppercut, matching it. And the public battle has also been aimed at Chevy's EV credentials. The folks at Nissan have been taking jabs at the Volt's range-extending engine. It's gasoline-powered and allows the Volt to travel an additional 325 miles.
The real simple way to determine what's an EV and what's not is there gas on board. Yes, it's not an EV. No, it's an EV. Pretty simple.
Yep, he's talking about the Volt. And in case you missed the jabs at each other in their commercials.
So doesn't it just make sense that we build an electric car that goes far, really far?
What the Chevy folks are trying to say is, after 100 miles of driving the competition, the Nissan Leaf, you'll be walking.
The 100% electric Nissan Leaf. Innovation for the planet. Innovation for all.
So according to the Leaf commercial, after 40 miles of driving a Volt, you'll melt the polar ice caps. But Nissan does bring up an interesting question. Can the Chevy Volt be considered an electric vehicle if there's an internal combustion component? To get answers, I went to Hamtramck, Michigan, outside Detroit. That's where the Volt is being built alongside Buicks and Cadillacs. Now, it may not look like it right now, but that right there is a Chevy Volt. This remote cart right here is going to lift up the engine into the Volt. And remember, this isn't a normal engine, it's a much smaller engine. It is used to charge the battery in the Chevy Volt. Think of it as an onboard power plant. GM says the engine never turns the wheels. That's done with an electric motor. And it's that range-extending engine that the folks at General Motors say will give the Volt a fighting chance when faced with consumers who have range anxiety when it comes to electric cars.
I've been here for 35 years.
But for auto workers like Larry Jones, it's the Volt itself that will give him a fighting chance.
A year ago, a lot of people here didn't even know whether there was going to be a General Motors. So a lot of anxious people, a lot of people laid off. But with this car, there's hope.
Speaking of hope,
we had the president here. I mean, that was probably one of the proudest moments of my life.
Last December, the Volt was brought to Washington, D.C., and I got to drive it. So I'll be able to tell my grandkids I drove the Volt before the president did.
Absolutely, absolutely. I did too.
That test drive I was referring to lasted all of 20 minutes. Now, driving the Volt around the parking lot of RFK Stadium is one thing, but cramming my 6-foot 4-inch body into a car for a 5-hour drive, well, that's another. So I took Chevy up on its offer for a much longer ride. I drove the Volt from Raleigh, North Carolina to Washington, D.C. That's 277 miles. And the Volt didn't disappoint. It was a quiet, smooth ride. After 37 miles of driving in EV mode, the backup gas engine kicked on. And if there hadn't been fancy display graphics to tell me that there'd been a switch, I never would have known. But what about Nissan's claims that the Volt isn't an EV?
For the first 50 miles, 40 miles, it will be pure electric, engine will never come on.
As for the Nissan Leaf, for the first 2 years, it will be made in Japan. After that, it'll be made right here at this assembly plant in Smyrna, Tennessee. Right here, they're putting in the gas tank for an Altima in 2012. That will be a battery pack for a Nissan Leaf. And like the Volt, the Nissan plant will be retooled to make the Leaf alongside other Nissan products, such as the Altima and Pathfinder. Those cars pay the bills, so Nissan wants the addition of the Leaf to be just another day at the office for its workers, and that transition is the job of Dan Herr. You're trying to make this so it's not such a big deal for the workers, but building an electric car is a big deal, isn't it?
It is, and if we kind of step back and think about it, it's an awesome opportunity to be part of the change in the industry.
I drove to the Smyrna plant in a Leaf, of course, and like the Volt, the Leaf didn't disappoint. It was a quiet, smooth ride and plenty of head and legroom. And this car is virtually silent. That noise that you're hearing is because the windows are down, but there's no other noise that the car makes except the rubber hitting the road. It didn't have as many gadgets as the Volt, but then again, it's nearly 10 grand less expensive.
From a technical engineering kind of standpoint, we wanted consumers to step out of their gas-powered car into this one and find it very easy to drive, very normal. A few new screens to look at and learn about, but really driving, one to the other, just step in and go.
And as for Larry Jones, he's seen the Hamtramck plant add shifts since they started making the Volt.
So this is clean, and this is new, this is state of the art, and this is the future. The future is now.
And Lee Patrick Sullivan is out of the ring and into the studio with us. Lee, you spent a lot of time behind the wheel of both of these cars. What are your impressions?
Tyler, I couldn't tell the difference between these EVs and a gas-powered car, except off the line, the EVs are actually quicker.
Price tags here. There is a difference. The Volt is $41,000, the Leaf $32,000, but that's not necessarily what you're going to pay for these.
No, Tyler, you can lop off $7,500 from the federal tax credit, but there's also state, local, and even some private companies that are giving incentives for the early adopters for these cars. So you can knock $10,000, $12,000 off the price of these cars.
That's a pretty good incentive. All right, Lee Patrick Sullivan, thank you.